Welcome to this episode of the IT Provider Network. I'm Terry Rossi, and today I want to talk to you about some of my travels over the last couple of weeks. I went to a couple user conferences and IT security workshops, met some great people, heard about some great new tools and techniques for the IT Provider Network.
Welcome to the IT Provider Network. Are you a managed service entrepreneur wanting to take your business to the next level? Do you excel in IT but feel your business management could be better? Join Terry Rossi, where every episode he shares the skills, tips, and tricks that helped him to build a successful worldwide business.
The first conference I went to was a regional conference. It was put on by the ASCII group. You can find them at ASCII.com. And if you've never heard of ASCII, they're a trade organization for IT service providers, originally founded for VARs about 40 years ago. They are now made up of about 80% managed service providers. ASCII provides you with basically 5 big takeaways. The first is savings, and that comes primarily in 2 ways. The first is through the distributors. So ASCII has relationships with the major distributors, and once you join the ASCII group, you get their pricing. So you get put on the ASCII price list, and that can save you anywhere from 2 to 15%. Pretty big deal for the price of membership. The second is in and around insurance. ASCII has a relationship with an insurance agent that supplies really good E&O or errors and omissions insurance, professional liability insurance. And because you're an ASCII member, you're invited to get a quote from that broker to get your errors and omissions insurance. It's not always the least expensive option, but it's good insurance. I believe the last time I looked at it was Lloyd's of London, and their price is very competitive. I'm not sure how you price your insurance, but we go through the process every year or every 2 years, and some years one carrier is less expensive than the other. You always need to be looking at it. You always want to make sure you have AAA insurance and that your business is protected. As they say, shit happens. The second thing you get from ASCII is some really good marketing help. This comes via 3 different programs that they provide for their members. The first is a social media program, and that basically is a posting service on your behalf. So you give them your Twitter credentials, your LinkedIn credentials, your Facebook credentials, and ASCII will post on your behalf relevant articles for your customers. I use this service all the time. It's additional content. It puts my company in front of my consumers. The second is an email newsletter. ASCII provides you with a free customizable newsletter. You can send it to, I think, up to 2,000 people a month. They design the newsletter, they create the graphics, they select the articles, and you have the ability to switch out articles if there's an article in there that you don't like, perhaps for a vendor that you don't support or a technology that you don't support. The third big thing is networking. It's a pretty big network, the ASCII network. I don't know how many members they have now, but they've been in business since the early 80s, so they have quite a bit of traction in the industry. Through that organization, you're able to pick up peers and partners that you can use in the case of a out-of-town client, in the case of some skill set that you don't have, that you need someone to help you with. I've actually used this. We have a customer that is very successful in printing for a convenience store. If you're around the Philadelphia area or now around Florida, you know the store called Wawa. They came in, they're out of Wawa, Pennsylvania, and they just blow the doors off of any other convenience store around. So they're very successful in the tri-state, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey market. And then they started to move down to Florida, down to the corridor in Florida where all the northerners went. Well, when they moved down to Florida, my customer, who does a lot of printing for Wawa, moved down there with them. Well, as luck would have it, as soon as they got there, lightning hit their building, blew up every piece of equipment in it. So we couldn't fix it remote. We needed local hands. We reached out to ASCII. ASCII put us in touch with a local partner down there. They were gracious enough to go out and be our hands on site, charge us a reasonable fee, get our customer back online. The other thing you can use the networking for is authorizations. Let's say you have a one-off sale for, digital signage, and you want to use a particular vendor. You're not authorized for them. By working with another ASCII member, you can buy through them. They can buy it on your behalf, deliver it to your customer, deliver it to you, and you can get around not having to have an authorization for a one-off type part that you might need. The third thing is knowledge, right? So they provide at least a couple times a year these summits, and that's what I went to. That it's a 1 or 2 day summit that's held in a regional area. Mine's in the New York, New Jersey area, so it's typically in North Jersey. And if you're local, great, you come for the day. If you're more than 50 miles away, they'll actually put you over in the hotel room for the night. Bring a bunch of vendors in, bring some guest speakers in. At this year's conference, we got to hear Frank Abagnale, and if you don't know that name, it's the Catch Me If You Can guy. When he was a young boy, he actually was, very criminal. He was fraudulent. He pretended to be an airline pilot, a doctor, a teacher, all of these things, and he had a life of crime. He was kind of forced into it. It wasn't really all his fault, but he was definitely a thief. He did a lot of bank fraud, got away with it for quite a while. He actually escaped from the penitentiary once. He also escaped from authorities one time on a tarmac. But after that, he turned his life around. He spent the last 40 years at the FBI working on cybercrime and identity theft because he's pretty good at the task. So really good conferences. They put them on once or twice a year, the ASCII Summit, that's called. And the last thing is they represent us in the industry. So they are a voice for IT service providers. So if you have a problem with a vendor or a manufacturer, they can go to bat for you. The other thing they do is plan these group purchases. So they'll reach out to a vendor, query the ASCII membership and see if there's any interest, and then negotiate special pricing for the members. I talked about one of them in a previous episode, the No B4 purchase, where they were able to secure a pricing for a seat that was really, really low, way less than you could get on your own. So take advantage of ASCII. They're not paying me for this plug. I'm a happy member. I think I've been in the organization for over 6 years now. I find value in it. I like to get together once in a while with my peers and see what's going on in the industry. So check them out at ASCII.com. And if you do sign up, make sure you tell them the IT Provider Network sent you. The second conference I went to was down in Florida, and that was the Exchange 2017 conference. So if you're not familiar with Exchange, it's a conference put on by the Channel Company. And the Channel Company does a lot of things. They have a media arm that runs the magazine CRN, a lot of editorial. They have education and consulting they do with iPad. And they put on events, and the Exchange Conference is one of them. It's what's called a hosted conference, meaning that the sponsors of the conference pay for the attendees to come. So the airfare, the hotel, all of the conference costs are paid for by the sponsors of the show. And in exchange, they get some quality time with us. So what the Channel Company does is they split you up into groups based on who you sell to and, your demographics, your size, and then they put you in these boardroom sessions. It's you and 10 or 11 of your peers sitting around in a U-shaped table, and vendors come in and they get to pitch to you. They get about 25, 30 minutes to pitch to you. You get to ask and answer questions, and they get dedicated time with you. So really good show. I find a lot of value in the boardroom sessions. We get to see about 15 different vendors over the course of 3 days, along with some great keynote speakers and breakout sessions. If you're interested in attending a future Exchange conference, I'll put a link to the contact information for the Channel Company in the show notes. Reach out to them. They're always looking for new solution providers to present to their sponsors. So that's the two conferences that I attended. Now let me share with you some of the things that I thought were interesting observations and things that you can take advantage of in your business. The first was some marketing help. We all struggle with marketing, right? We're all struggling to get the same kind of customers. We're not necessarily the best at marketing. We're techies for the most part. So the vendors have realized that, and they're really starting to step up and try to help us. There's a few particular offerings that I thought were really cool. At the top of the list had to be Datto. So if you're a Datto partner, even if you only have one device in the field, you can take advantage of this. The first is they have something called Market Now. What Market Now is basically a rebranding private label Mind Matrix login. So what Mind Matrix is a partner relationship, marketing automation, sales enablement platform that enables you to send out drip marketing, manage your contact lists, create workflows so that you can keep in touch with your leads. So really cool stuff. Datto has worked with Mind Matrix to present this to their partners. When you log in, you'll see at least a couple drip marketing campaigns already created for you. If I remember right, there's one for disaster recovery, there's one for business continuity, And these are a series of emails, landing pages, and white papers or infographics that you can reel in a lead with. So really cool stuff, provided free of charge if you're a Datto partner and you have just one device in the field. I'll put a link to the partner site at Datto in the show notes, and you can check that out. The second thing that Datto is doing for their partners, which I think is also really cool, is they'll basically put on a webinar for you. So all you need to do is do the front-end marketing to drive traffic to the webinar. Datto will pair up with you, produce and deliver the webinar with your call to action at the end. So what that means is they'll use their GoToWebinar account. They'll put a salesperson on the webinar that will run the webinar. At the end of the call, at the end of the webinar, the call to action will be back to you. So really, really cool. Two great features that I encourage you all to take advantage of if you're a Datto partner. And if you're not a Datto partner, maybe you should check it out. Obviously, good products. It's not the one that I use. I do have a couple in the field, ones that I've inherited, but always a great product and a really impressive company. Started in 2007 by Austin McCord. I think he was 23 years old when he started it. Fast forward 10 years later, they have 800 people in 9 offices throughout the world, and they were just valued as $1 billion company, a unicorn type company. So really, really impressive kid, obviously an amazing entrepreneur. So check it out, Datto and the Market Now program, as well as their Done For You webinar service. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about from the Exchange conference was Intermedia. If you're not familiar with Intermedia, they were the hosted exchange company of choice forever. Before Office 365 became so popular, Intermedia had the keys to the kingdom. I thought it was interesting that at this conference, they were pitching VoIP. They really didn't say anything about hosted exchange or Office 365, mostly just talked about their VoIP offering. So to me, that looked like handwriting on the wall. They needed to shift, they needed to pivot, they needed to change because their Office 365, their Exchange Online business was drying up. They had a pretty compelling voice offer. I don't remember the details exactly, but if you're an Intermedia partner, I know there were some MDF funds available, and you could get some free phones between now and I believe the end of September. So pretty cool offering on their VoIP. The one thing that I thought was interesting about that offering, though, was that it was white labeled, so you bill it as yourself. Now, I know from talking to people that are really into VoIP, you can really get in a lot of trouble when you white label VoIP services. You're responsible to then collect the taxes, which Intermedia says they'll do for you on your behalf, but I find that a little bit of a precarious position. For what it's worth, check it out, VoIP service from Intermedia. The third thing, and the third vendor that I wanted to talk about from the Exchange conference was Aerohive. And Aerohive is a cloud-based wireless solution. So they compete with Meraki, they compete with Ruckus, and they offer a full line of access points from a very, very small access point that you can put in a hotel room or a dorm room. And this is a brand new product, so pretty cool. They're calling it a wall plate access point and switch. It's called the AP1500, and it's a tiny little thing. I think it has a 4-port PoE switch in it, an access point, cloud managed, really, really cool. I could see it working really well in college dorms and hotel rooms. So the neat thing about Aerohive is they're 100% channel focused. They have a neat channel program, really good discounts, and a pretty cool wireless as a service program that they administer through Synnex. So you can actually sign a deal with Synnex and rent the access points and create your own wireless as a service offering with zero capital outlay. I believe you can get a 3-year deal for a commercial customer and a 5-year deal for a K-12 customer. So if you're looking to create a wireless as a service offering, check out Aerohive, and I'll put a link to their partner program in the show notes at the itprovidernetwork.com/episode 15. There were a bunch of great vendors at the show, and I also got to see some of the coaches that I use, specifically Dave Russell and Gary Pica. Dave Russell, who is my management coach, I send all of my mid-level managers through Dave's course, to get them prepared to lead their teams, and Gary Pica of True Methods. So if you don't know about these guys, I encourage you to check them out at manage2win.com and truemethods.com. And I'll put a link to both of them in the show notes. So that's the update from the shows. I did want to give you a couple updates about the podcast. I finally got the resources online that I've been promising you. Both the IT Provider Hiring Handbook and the Webinar Planning Spreadsheet are both online now at the itprovidernetwork.com/resources. So if they're of interest to you, jump on over there and grab it. I do appreciate you listening, and if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and give us a rating and review. I would really appreciate it. It lets me know how I can improve and serve you better. Thanks, and have a great day. Remember, we are IT. Prove it to your customers every day. Get it done for them. Make it a good one.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you've been inspired. Check us out on social media via @ITProviderNet and visit us at www.itprovidernetwork.com for past episodes, show notes, videos, and more. And we hope you'll join Terry next time on the IT Provider Network.